Hiya, agitators, for myself and my co-host Joey the dog. Right, Joey? Okay. Today on Agit TV, we're going to Wayward Arts Gallery here in Chicago to see a show based on the early 20th century surrealist game Exquisite Corpes, or in the original French, and the name of this show, Cadavre Exquis. Wayward's proprietor, mastermind, and curator of this show is Dominique Allman. She gives an excellent description of the game and her inspiration for this project as she walks us through, so I'll let her do that. But first, a brief word on the show and its process. Dominique got nearly 100 canvas boards, each 9 by 12 inches. Each of the 64 artists in the show got a board or 2 or 3, depending on how ambitious they felt. Each board was marked on the back, head, torso, feet, respectively. If you're not familiar with the game, you'll get the idea very shortly. In full disclosure, I've known Dominique since October 2023 when I was in the spooky art show, my first of so many at Wayward, including this one. In that time, Dominique has become a very dear friend. Two things really struck me as I walked through this space. Firstly, Dominique had crafted from start to finish the very best kind of large group show. 64 artists are displayed in this space on a very level playing field of sorts. Each artist has the same horizontal canvas board to work on. Each has to relate to the canvas above or below them, or both. And in the end, you are very aware of the hand of the curator in this show. The arrangements are purposeful, sometimes funny, and very often poetic. Secondly, I couldn't imagine walking through this show and not being struck by the thought that this is a great time to live in Chicago. There is so much really awesome art and so many very different people making awesome art in Chicago at this moment. Hello, agitators. This is your pal, Luna Rail. Today, I am at Wayward Arts Gallery with its curator, its proprietor, the brain behind it, Dominique Allman. And I really wanted to do this show because I think it's like one of the coolest ideas for an art show I've seen in a very long time. I'm going to do a quick pan around.
Yeah.
And it's an Exquisite Corpse show. And this is really, Dominique, this is your brainchild, you know?
Kind of. I mean, it was informed. Like a friend of mine is like, you should do Exquisite Corpes. And I didn't know anything about it. But I did play that word game when I was a kid. My mom was really into that, like doing word play and stuff. Words weren't that easy for me, but it was kind of fun making these mix-up sentences. And so when Karen, my friend, suggested like a show based on Exquisite Corpes, I had to dig around and I'd put it off, and then it's like, oh, what is that thing again? You know, and yeah, so I read and it sounded really fun. I'm like, oh, I know what this is. It's like that word game, but with pictures.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a wonderful show. And I remember coming by before, you know, once you got it hung into kind of like doing the final stages of like arranging and rearranging things. So it doesn't just stop with the artists who bring stuff in. It really is just this amazing project. I want to talk about the walls if we can, and also the book you made, which I think is really just so full of joy and wonderfulness and stuff.
Cool.
But are there any like favorite? Well, no, that favorite isn't a good term, but are there any like pieces you really want to point out or discuss or talk about?
I mean, I guess there's like a little nuts and bolts to putting together this show that. You know, when I sent canvases home to each artist, I made like little lines like, okay, let's line them up.
Yeah.
And so that the neck goes to the torso, goes to the legs. And then like creative people do, there was a lot of like working outside the lines.
Of course, yeah.
Which presented a little bit of a challenge when assembling everything in this show, but it was also like that kind of visual challenge that was kind of meaty and interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can talk specifically to favorite things, but favorite combinations.
That would be,
You know, like I guess I respond myself personally. I respond a lot to color, and like these three are by three totally different artists, but they
Of
just,
course.
I don't know. I just really loved how they worked together.
I
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to say, especially with the one with the house head,
Yeah.
which is so funny, and the human chest and the fin, just the colors, the gold continues all the way through. It's just so wonderful, you
And I
know.
mean, to be fair, when I was putting this stuff together, I moved them around and moved them around, and
Yeah,
they had so many iterations that it was actually the hardest show I've ever hung
yeah,
because of the sheer volume of combinations. Like
right.
once I had this head on this body because I just thought, oh my God, that's hysterical. Or I had him on
Yeah.
a tree, which was kind of funny because, like, what's that bear doing up in a tree? So sometimes it's like, oh, visually, how do these go together? But also, there's kind of like some kind of comedy, like,
No,
you know,
absolutely.
how things
Absolutely.
work as well, or yeah.
I think that again kind of like is the thing that draws me into like just walking into this show is is it kind of feels just like fun and like you're allowed to have fun. Even with like
Yeah,
really beautifully, I mean, there's like all different skill sets, skill types, I think, orientations for like how people make images. And it's all just extraordinarily wonderful. Really is,
and I mean, here we really, especially this show, but I am always interested what students are doing, and there's some fairly established Chicago artists here as
Yeah,
well, and a lot of people in between. And I mean, this show in particular was such a fun way and vibrant way to bring that together and, let these pieces of works and people's ideas just kind of play with each other.
in some ways, I mean, you talk about the idea of like exquisite corpse with words. I almost think of kind of like the tape experiments that like, and this is like so pointy head on my part, but that Allen Ginsberg and William S. Burroughs were doing in the 50s and 60s in Paris. They cut up just like this word, this phrase goes with this word, this phrase. I'm looking at this now over in the corner and really so drawn into it because I'm going, oh, it's a tree, of course, yeah, and then I'm going like, oh, flowers and trees flower, and on top of that is just this wonderful, and they're kind of different, but they're very complementary styles of painting. And then at the base, this really lovely thing about seed and corn, and it almost looks and feels genitalial in a way, but it's so beautiful. Just
We
it's so
kind of
much
had a
poetry in
debate
it.
between is it male or female, and that in
Absolutely,
and of
yeah,
itself was, I love art that just like pulls you in. It doesn't have to be literal.
yeah. No, no, not at
Uh,
all.
the
And
less
it's
literal, the more interesting it is becomes to me. That bottom piece is,
definitely.
is actually that particular artist wanted three panels, and they
Oh,
made a somewhat cohesive piece, which isn't really the
huh.
intent of Exquisite Corpes, but it was still quite fun to separate them
Yeah.
and see how they played with other pieces. So that is the torso. This
Oh,
this was
yeah.
done by Eric Gloyd, and then the head. And then you can see a couple other pieces that
Oh, those are so funny.
go along. This artist is Cass Copeland.
Mhm.
And so hers is one continual cohesive piece. Um,
Oh, I see.
but to be able to break it up was very playful and fun.
Yeah, no, no, of course. I could kind of, and that works. I
And I
mean,
had to really resist putting it together because, you know, my brain just wants to make things fit. And it's like, no, that's not the point. The point of Exquisite Corpse is we're all sitting around a room, which would be super fun to play in person.
yeah,
You draw the head, you fold it back, pass it to the next person. They have no idea what kind of head you drew.
Right.
And then, you draw a torso. Again, you hide it, you fold it back and pass it along, and then see what the, combination turns into.
Yeah, and that's so what works here, and it's funny, and at the same time, there's like a wonderful poetry to it. It's kind of both and all that, and I even love kind of like when I sit here and really give it some space and time more than I have before. I notice it's like this and this, the torso and the two heads together.
And she's got another piece on the
But
other side. She also did a continual piece. This is Sarah Renee Holloway, and she runs Mind's Eye, which is a small gallery, but she also does a lot of, studio, like open studio and classes and stuff. But this I couldn't keep my eyes off of. She titled it, I don't remember, but it was like, this person is supposed to be underwater and basically dead. And I'm like, I don't see that, because I just see these threads of life that are pulsating and, as if they're, coming out. But
it's that wonderful territory of art we were talking about where the artist has one idea and we come up and have something wholly different.
I mean,
and they're absolutely legit, Yeah. They really are. Let's see the rest of the show.
Yeah. Oh, I should mention, like, collecting the work and making it like in threes. That was a particular challenge. And so we had, I put out like a last minute plea, a call for art, because it's like, oh, I miscalculated. I need a couple more heads. I need a couple more legs. Right. So this gal, I mean, she turned this out so fast. This is by Tammy Long's-Joe. And she brought that in. She was hustling to go out of town. And I'm always just in awe of artists who, like, oh, okay, I don't know if I have time, but I'm going to do this. And then what they create, what they bring back is just so humbling to me. How they can produce something, and oh my God, like, these legs just make me want to dance,
I love that, like, lovely serpentine, just, it's good drawing, and it's fun drawing too,
Yeah.
And this piece is by itself.
And this guy came in super late, so I couldn't not put it on the wall, but
it's a great
we don't have a combination for him because,
I almost want to, like, draw something in pencil.
I'm sorry?
I almost want to draw something in pencil.
I know, like I had about, yeah, that's great.
That's actually, I think, in a way too, that's like really kind of you to, like, consider it's like you're a late entry and still it's okay.
It's so hard for me to say no. I appreciate so much. If anyone knows me, I do things late all the time. I am usually here till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning the night before a show. But yeah, this artist, James Emmett, is like, most of his work is abstract, and I'm like, I don't know if you're into this, but I think you should try. And
it's so
totally
great,
love it.
It feels like a torso, actually.
The colors, it does feel like a torso, and he did 2 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And that feels like tentacles or something.
Yeah, but just 4 of them. But again, there's so much movement in it, and the color is so awesome. And I need to ask him, but I think that he painted in reverse, like where he painted the base and then made the shape by filling, those pieces in. Because I still see, like, a lot of the texture below the lighter areas.
Is that, it's got that kind of, like, archaeological.
Yeah, where you're trying, like,
right.
There's something beneath it. Yeah, yeah.
I love what you did with these. It's kind of like I look at it and I see the red with the head and the figures on the side continue to here and then continue to the base. It so works,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, thank you.
I mean, there isn't one I don't like, and I love this as well. I mean, in full disclosure, that's mine, and I normally
That's my
do.
favorite.
Oh, you're
No, I'm not supposed to say favorites about anything. But Luna, when you first brought this in, I'm like, is that a head? Is that the torso? Which did I assign it? And then you said, well, you can make it whatever you want. And it was intended as the head,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
The clouds are a big giveaway.
And the wings and the hand, but it was funny because I looked at the texture on the canvas board, and the stuff I do is digital.
Yes.
And I thought, well, go ahead, go with the sculptural piece. But I was going to say that I love the way, again, you're paying so much attention to like the flow, the movement, the texture. And even down here, it's just like so wonderful because...
Well, to me, these pieces were like in motion, like I feel like these arms are moving, if they are arms. This just feels like something moving with the atmosphere. And here we've got, the flowers, her skirt, or his, the skirt of the skeleton just feels like it's moving to me. So
no, absolutely.
it was less of a pose and more of a...
I love New York and Marilyn Monroe.
So this gentleman, this is Yusuf. He also, like many other people, answered a last-minute call. And
oh, that's great.
Typically a digital artist, although he does have a painting down the wall. So I don't know. I love it.
Streaming Jay Hawkins is great.
Yes.
I love that.
Okay, so I had to look him up, but then
no, but it's really it's funny though because I could see the color combination definitely, and I walked past this piece initially, and I'm like, oh, this is a really rich, really beautiful drawing, and it's funny. Just again, there's like so much humor in this. It's kind of like the duck and the golden egg, or the goose perhaps.
And Tammy probably did not have this in mind, but like I did think of my pregnant self from 1,000 years ago, and those duck legs. I'm like, oh, yep, just waddling like a duck. She probably had something else in mind.
But I love this combination.
Another Luna rail
at the bottom, and again doing weird. And also, thank you to, in this case, American Science and Surplus.
Oh, they're awesome.
Everyone should know them. And it's interesting, too, because you hung it upside down. I like it better upside down.
I did?
Than I do right side up.
Okay, so...
No, leave it this way. I like it better.
So I was thinking, well,
it works. It totally
if there is a body in here, maybe the body and hands are going, the more we talk, the more I'm going to say, well, I don't have favorites, but like, look at how awesome this is. And she... it's collage. This is from Agit Arts. And I just feel like that 3D sort of stuff that comes through. I mean, I feel like I can just put my hand in there. And then this is like this, another collage
and they also work.
Sardine. And using tinfoil intentionally because, like, sardines in a can. And
so they are. Oh, that's wonderful.
If you get up close, all this is just little tiny pieces of paper that she used to construct the sardine, which I think is so freaking amazing.
It looks so shimmery and dimensional, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
And I was going to mention, what struck me about this is just the draw. I know it's collage, but the drawing in here, the pencil.
Yeah.
She's taken such liberties with constructing the rib cage, but it works. It is just it feels so fragile and so beautiful, My compliments. It's just so nicely done. And just the way that the leaves are draped off of it, it's just exquisite, I think. So.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, I always loved really good drawing, like in this hand.
So this is by Stephen Dennis, and he put one of those little process videos up online on social media.
Yeah.
And so I believe underneath that painting is a painting of somebody riding, the legs riding a bicycle, which I thought was really awesome. And then he wiped it all out, and then he went there with the hand, with thing, which is
That's, yeah.
kind of fun, knowing that there's a bicycle in it. Only if you watch his process video.
That's amazing, and it's beautifully done.
It's really great.
And again, I love what you did with this. Is kind of like I could see the separate pieces being cool, but you would see, and especially the torso, they're capitalizing
and
on
it
this.
does kind of follow the curve, like, okay,
Yeah.
if that neck is moving in one way, then it makes sense that her body is moving in another, and
Yeah.
the tentacles. And that's just like these little surprises when I'm playing around with the canvases, like, oh, wait a minute, look at how well that works. That was less about color and more about movement.
Totally, totally. And the color works, but the movement is so great, It just is. And that big, funny looking Japanese kind of like demon head at the top is so like centered and static just to hold the whole thing together. It's so great. And again, it's like so many pieces. I'd love to talk about every single one, every single combination.
Yeah. Okay, this is one of the more unique ones, but don't look at the pencil mark. That was me trying to level the wall.
Oh, really?
But I just think that's so, completely different.
Mm-hmm.
He took it to a completely different place. He
Mm-hmm.
took a photo of his feet and sketched it and then cut it out. So it's like more like the absence. I love
totally
playing with the absence of space,
And what do team players like feet? You get
Mhm.
actual feet,
Yeah.
And it's so, and the whole super person thing is just like such a great, that so works. It so completely works. And there's such humor in this.
Oh yeah, and these three guys are from this, like I met them from the Grotesque Burlesque drawing group that meets here in the gallery. So this is by Cliff Questel. This is Youssef, and that's Thomas. I have to think about his last name.
Okay.
And I recognize this model, so that's super fun when I,
nice.
Get some pieces from people who've been around Wayward Arts for a while. I recognize the models, which is pretty fun.
And again, I'm looking at this pairing here. Again, it's just like, it so works and it's so fun. I love her expression above the Godzilla body and then the big foot.
I kind of feel like she's like, wait a minute, what just happened to my foot, Like she woke up one morning and, she's got these big claws for hands and,
And she's got to make decisions about how to accessorize for the day. Human skull or mouse skull, I don't know. And this one, just, they all work so well. I love that. And I love the fact, too, that these pieces don't really fit, but they're great. They're just so beautiful.
They don't. So Jason Farley answered, like I proactively contacted him. He's like, oh, well, this is going to be great. I'm already working on some panels the same size. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize that he didn't, like he had something totally different in mind. But we had the wall space, and they're beautiful.
Absolutely.
Many of us look at them as like, that's a photograph. Wait a minute. And if you get up close and personal with that painting, that is an oil painting. This is exquisite with a fine level of detail.
The gold leaf is lovely, and it so works. It's just such the right contrast. Oh, it's beautiful.
And I mean, this just evokes that end of summer feeling, like hanging out at a pond and just you know, dangling your hand in the water. It's just, I love
Absolutely.
that.
Let's see. I want to talk about these pieces, and we'll. Oh, I wanted the shoe. I thought was wonderful too. Love those. I love the. I love the raven, the crow. Is it the same artist or?
I'm sorry.
Oh, is this the same artist or?
That is, yes, that's the same artist,
Okay.
Jason Farley. He says he's going to make a total series with this color, you know,
Oh, okay.
and the gold leaf. They'll all be the same size, the same portrait, you know, direction.
Okay. And you're being called away again. I'll let you.
Again, hello. Just the idea of all the possibilities. There's like over 30,000 possible combinations.
You did the math on that.
I actually had to call my husband because I remember there was a formula to figure it out, and it's really the simplest thing in the world. It's just, okay, if there's 65 pieces, then it's 65 times 65 times 65. But
Right.
I don't think there were 65 pieces, though. I don't remember what our total was. But it's kind of fun. So I've been thinking about this the second I thought about doing this show. Like, wouldn't it be so fun if, you know,
It's a
have like a
brilliant
little
solution.
kid's book, but not a little kid's book with some really fun artwork and play around and look at, you know, all these little combinations.
I mean, for the problem of like make a book that's a souvenir from the show, I think this is just like such, again, it's like such an inventive way to do it.
It was a little like, it was a challenge. Like, I've never put a book together before. And so for
Right.
the first thing to be like, oh, wait, we have to print it, then punch it, then cut it, then bind it. And most of the all the printers I talk to are like, yeah, we don't do that. Or we can do it, but it would just cost an extraordinary, it
I
really
bet.
was. I wasn't really prepared for how much printing costs. So
We sympathize. Yeah.
I found some equipment so I could do it myself. I mean,
Holy
I
cow.
didn't print it. I still sent it out to print. And like, ideally, I would have wanted to scan these and do really great quality prints, but you know, I think my little phone camera did all right, you know.
That's what we're using here.
I taxed it to the max. Oh, this is one combination when I put these two together. I don't know, I just love, this is super surreal. There's a lot of stuff going on with this.
Oh, but it so works.
Once I hung it with this, with these legs, and it was like just the simplicity with all this like totally wackadoo, surreal stuff going on. Seemed really great.
Again, what a wonderful show and what a wonderful experience. Dominique, thank you so much.
This
is really a pleasure.
That.
If you're an artist in this show and we didn't get to you, please accept our apologies. There was a lot of art and it was impossible to get to every piece. Going over the video for this episode, I was struck by the number of pieces and groupings that are excellent and we didn't talk about. One more word on Wayward here. On the About page of the Wayward site, Dominique writes, the name, upper space, comes from imagining how a piece of work can be carved from a block of wood. By digging into the negative spaces, a beautiful work emerges, much like by digging into our past many lives, and by daring to look deeply at the negative, traumatic, challenging moments of our lives, we come to a whole. Accepting all parts of a self, we negate the straight and narrow by exploring the wayward path. I've left a link to Wayward Arts below. You can find a listing of all artists who took part in this project with images as well as previous Wayward shows. As always, please like, subscribe, help us appease the algorithm gods, and comment. If you can, please consider becoming a supporter of Agitator on Patreon. Your donations help us to continue the work we do at Agitator. Agitator is a 501(c) not-for-profit. All donations are tax deductible. And lastly, for myself, enjoy the dog. Okay, bye. Thanks, Joy. I think we're good.
The great Sultan, slumber.